It was Thanksgiving, and they only set 5 plates. Not 6. I paused at the edge of the dining room, letting my eyes settle on the table. The same table we'd used for years. My seat was gone. In its place sat a bowl of fake eucalyptus, a white candle, and silence. Ava arrived 20 minutes late, laughing as she swept in with a designer coat and the kind of voice meant to fill a room. "Oh, Lena," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Still keeping it simple, I see." Her tone made it sound like charity. I took my place across from her without a word. She dominated the dinner like she was holding court, telling everyone about her new promotion, how her boss said she was the sharpest mind in the room. Mom beamed. Dad nodded. Even my uncle, who never remembers birthdays, asked for her business card. No one asked me anything. Not about the long flight I took to be there. Not about the work I didn't post online. Not even how I'd been. At one point, Ava leaned closer, voice syrup sweet but sharp enough to sting. "It's kind of nice how you've gone off grid. Like a gap year. Just 5 years long." Laughter followed. No one stopped it. I didn't flinch. I didn't defend. I just raised my glass, took a sip, and let the moment burn itself out. Because I already knew something she didn't. That shiny paycheck she was bragging about? I signed it. But not yet. Not here. Let them laugh. Let them underestimate me one more time. It would make the silence later feel even louder. They think I'm drifting, not just between jobs, but between choices, between lives. To them, figuring things out is code for failure, for giving up on what they called a perfectly good path. The truth is, I walked away 5 years ago from something that looked successful on paper, but felt like erosion every single day. The paycheck was high. The office had windows. The meetings were full of people who smiled with their mouths, but never their eyes. And Ava was one of them. She worked 5 floors above me and never acknowledged it unless she needed something. Fix this slide deck. Run the numbers by morning. Make me look like I thought of it first. And I did. Every time. Until I didn't. One morning, I shut my laptop. I handed in my badge. I left behind the name on the office door, and the inbox full of unread praise. No big announcement, no farewell email. Just a clean exit and a private promise. I'd start again, on my own terms. Over time, I built something no one saw coming. A boutique consulting firm, lean and quiet, just big enough to matter but small enough to keep hidden. 3 contractors. No office space. Clients that paid on time and never asked where I went to college. I didn't post about it. Didn't add titles to my bio. Didn't tell my family. And they filled the silence with their own version of me. The dropout. The dreamer, the one who never quite landed. They wrote that story like it was fact. But the ending? That part still belongs to me. It came the next morning. A text from Ava. "Brunch tomorrow? Bringing the girls. Wear something cute. No." Context. No question. Just a directive dressed up in glitter. I stared at the screen for a while. I hadn't seen her outside of family events in years. We never grabbed coffee, never called. The last time we were alone together, she'd asked if I still freelanced on purpose. Part of me wanted to ignore it. Another part didn't. Because I already knew where she worked. I'd reviewed her department's quarterly numbers 2 weeks ago. My firm had been brought in to fix inefficiencies, and she was one of them. She didn't know, of course. My name never showed up in her inbox. Only on the contracts, only on the approvals, only on the payrolls. She thought I was invisible, so I said yes. Sure. What time? She replied instantly, like she'd been expecting me to obey. Marty. Hazel and Pine. Don't be late. Hazel and Pine. Of course, it was the kind of place people went to be seen. Crisp white dishes, sunlit windows, waiters who called you by name and posted you on the cafe's Instagram. I put my phone down and walked to my closet. I didn't need anything fancy, just clean lines, strong shoes, and something sharp enough to cut through that table if I needed to. She wanted a performance. Ideal. Give her one, but not the role she cast me in. Hazel and Pine smelled like lemon zest and polished ambition. I walked in right on time, Not a minute early, not a second late. The hostess gave me a look that lingered too long on my shoes, then smiled like she'd made a decision about me, Ava. Waved from the back. Her table was full, 3 women in matching neutrals, eyes glossy from mimosas, laughter just loud enough to sound like power. When I sat down, no one stood to greet me. Ava barely looked up. "Hey," she said, like dragging out the word made it sweeter. "We were just talking about dating apps. Lena's off the grid. She probably still thinks swiping is for credit cards." They laughed. One of them, Chloe, I think, tilted her head and asked, "So, what do you do?" Before I could answer, Ava leaned in. "She's exploring. You know, soul first, spreadsheet later. That kind of freedom is rare. It wasn't even cruel on the surface." Just carefully packaged condescension. I stirred my tea. The waiter arrived with menus, but Ava waved him off. "We'll do the prefix." "She's with us." That last part, "she's with us," landed sharper than it should have. It wasn't hospitality. It was hierarchy. I looked at the table. Their watches, their effortless posture, their casual assumption that I didn't belong unless someone claimed me. I didn't correct her. Didn't mention the consulting firm. Didn't say a word about her department, her pay stub, or the name printed at the bottom of the contract. Instead, I smiled, took a slow sip of water, and folded my napkin into my lap. Let them think I was nobody. It would make the reveal all the more memorable. Brunch moved on like they expected it to. The women swapped stories about conferences and clients, about partners who didn't pull their weight, and interns who cried when criticized. Ava was in her element, loud, polished, performative. I let her talk, let the courses come and go, smiled when appropriate, nodded when needed. I let the version of me she painted live a little longer, and then, without warning, the waiter returned with a leather-bound check presenter. He placed it in front of me. "Already covered," he said, with the kind of ease that made it clear this wasn't unusual. The card on file from Caldwell Strategies handled it. "That's the firm, right?" Ava blinked. "Wait, Caldwell what?" The waiter looked confused, then clarified. "It's who booked the table. Caldwell Strategies, partner account. They comp here often. Your name's Ava, right?" Her face didn't move at first. Then something flickered, a twitch behind the eyes, recognition fighting with disbelief. "Yeah, that's me." She looked at me, really looked for the first time all morning. I didn't flinch. I didn't explain. I simply reached for the check, opened it, and scanned the zeroed total like it was routine. Because it was. One of the women leaned forward, curious. "You're with Caldwell? What do they do?" I folded the receipt and slipped it back inside. "We manage performance." That was all I said. I stood, adjusted my jacket, and turned to Ava with a smile as soft as silk. "Next time, let me know if you want to expense dessert. It'll save you the surprise." Then I walked out, slowly so she'd have time to feel it. It wasn't the first time Ava had seen my name. She just never thought to read it. Weeks before brunch, she'd received a performance memo from corporate, a standard review, neatly, worded, with actionables and milestones. She bragged about it on LinkedIn. Honored to be selected for this strategic initiative. Excited to grow. She never mentioned the signature at the bottom, L. Caldwell, partner. It was there in bold, printed on the cover letter of the firm her company had outsourced department analysis to. She read the bullet points. She liked the formatting. She even quoted one of the lines in a team meeting. But the signature? She skimmed past it, because she never imagined that Lena, the sister she teased for not using her degree, could be the one shaping her KPIs, her timelines, her bonus eligibility. Few months earlier, HR had looped her into a compliance meeting. It was routine. Lena's firm was already on retainer. Ava signed the acknowledgement form without blinking. At the bottom of the contract, the same initials, the same name, Lena Caldwell. But when you spend years looking down on someone, you stop, seeing them clearly. You stop imagining they could ever be ahead of you. So even when she saw it, she didn't see it. And now, as she sat at a table she thought she owned, watching me walk away without raising my voice, she knew. Not because I told her, but because the signature she'd ignored had just paid the check. When I turned back toward the table, Ava was smiling, too wide, too fast. Wait, so you work there? She said, trying to laugh, as if this was a misunderstanding we could all chuckle through. Her voice was light, but her hands told the truth. One rested on her phone, the other fidgeted with the edge of her napkin, pulling, folding, pulling again. I sat back down. I don't work there, I said. I built it. The table went quiet. Even the waiter, still hovering with a tray of empty glasses, paused like he'd caught the shift in the air. Ava blinked. Twice. Chloe, the one with the perfect lipstick, leaned forward. Wait, you're Caldwell? The consulting firm? Ava, that's your payroll firm, right? Ava let out a sound, part cough, part laugh, and said nothing. I took a slow sip of tea. We've worked with several departments, I added softly. But the tech division, that one's personal. The woman across from me widened her eyes. Ava's mouth opened, but no words came out. I reached for my clutch, checked my phone, and stood. Ladies, thank you for brunch. Ava, always a pleasure. I didn't wait for a response. I didn't need one, because the power wasn't in the speech. It was in the silence, in the way the laughter stopped, in the way no one filled it. And as I walked away, slow, steady, without looking back, I knew something Ava had only just realized. Respect isn't taken. It's returned. She called that night. Not right away. Not during the silence after. Brunch. But hours later, long after the waiter had cleared the last glass, after the sun had dipped behind the trees and the shadows made everything feel smaller. My phone buzzed once. Then again, I answered on the third ring, not because I owed her anything, but because I was curious what version of the truth she'd try to tell. Hey, she said. So, that was weird, right? I didn't respond. Let the quiet stretch. I mean, I just didn't know. You could have said something. We wouldn't have, you know. She didn't say mocked you. She didn't say treated you like a joke. She didn't say humiliated. Why didn't you ever tell us what you do? She asked, her voice lower now, as if volume could hide intent. Leaned against the counter, watching the city lights flicker through my window. You weren't listening, I said. You were busy writing the story that suited you. Silence. Then, Lena, can we just agree this doesn't leave that table? I mean, but it's not really relevant to HR, right? There it was. Not shame, not apology, just fear. Not that I'd been erased, but that she might now be accountable for it. I wouldn't worry, I said. The contract speaks for itself. She didn't respond right away. Maybe she thought I was bluffing. Maybe she realized I wasn't, because for the first time in years, I wasn't the one trying to be understood. She was. The next time we saw each other, it was through a screen. I logged into the quarterly audit presentation 5 minutes early, as always. The meeting room on my screen was empty. Clean walls, tidy chairs, a carafe of untouched water in the middle of the table. Then the camera blinked, and Ava walked in. She didn't see me right away. She was talking to someone off-screen, holding a leather folder like it gave her authority, and then she looked up, saw the monitor, saw my face. Her smile didn't break, not immediately. It froze, tilted, then slipped a little at the corners. Let's get started, I said, voice calm. This session will cover division spending and accountability across Q3. No one else in the room spoke. I clicked to the first slide, a breakdown of department inefficiencies. Ava's name appeared twice, once under pending review, once under recommendation, restructure. I didn't flinch, didn't raise my voice. I just walked them through the numbers, the overages, the missed targets, the silence where leadership should have stepped in. She scribbled notes like she could, undo it with enough ink. But we both knew the paper trail was clean. At the end, the director thanked me. One of the partners nodded and asked if we needed to escalate. I smiled. No escalation, just documentation. That was the moment Ava realized something no brunch table had ever taught her. This wasn't personal, it was professional. And in that room under those lights with my signature already on the file, she wasn't my sister, she was my subject. It happened quietly. No announcement, no raised voices, just a memo. Ava was placed under review pending further audit. The words were clean, almost sterile. A few lines about procedural assessment, departmental oversight, non-compliance with internal thresholds, but I knew what they meant. Her promotion was frozen, her travel approvals revoked, access limited until further notice. Her calendar, once a parade of calls and leadership workshops, began to look empty. She texted once, "Is this your doing?" I didn't answer, because it wasn't revenge. It was response. She played a part in a system that assumed certain people didn't matter, that erased quiet workers, that rewarded performance over contribution, volume over value. And now, the system was watching her. She started coming in early, staying late, double-checking things that used to be beneath her. But it was too late for that now, because the emails had already been pulled, the reports already reviewed, and the person holding the mirror up to her decisions no longer needed to explain herself. At the next leadership sync, I was listed as an external auditor. She didn't speak the entire meeting. I logged off before they ended, and in that silence, the kind that follows exposure, not accusation, I understood something simple. I didn't need her to fall. I just needed her to see where she stood. No applause, no satisfaction, just consequence. I didn't return to the office. There was nothing left there I needed. The last audit report went out on a Friday. I signed it from a sunlit cafe, 2 hours outside the city, where no one knew my name, and the waitress called me ma'am with kindness. The silence felt earned this time. Ava never followed up. Not with a call. Not with another message. I heard, quietly as these things go, that she was considering other opportunities. A polite way of saying the building no longer made space for her the way it used to. And me? I stopped shrinking, stopped apologizing for being hard to define, for building something invisible, for walking away before the clapping ever started. Walked into spaces slower, held eye contact longer, let the silence stretch when someone asked, "And what do you do?" Because now the answer didn't have to fit in a sentence. It lived in how I carried myself, in how I no longer needed the room to applaud, just to not decide who I was for me. A few weeks later, I passed Hazel and Pine again. Not by design, just life. Ava was there. She didn't see me at first, but when she did, our eyes locked for just a moment. She looked away, and I kept walking, not out of pride, not out of vengeance, but because I didn't need her recognition. Anymore, she couldn't rewrite me, not now, not ever again. They don't ask about me anymore, not at Thanksgiving. Not in passing conversations, not even in family group texts, where silence has a way of speaking louder than any insult. And that's fine, because I no longer need to be spoken about to feel whole. I learned that revenge doesn't always come, in grand scenes or public apologies. Sometimes it arrives quietly, in the stillness of a balanced room, in the look someone gives you when they finally understand who you've been all along. I don't need Ava to say sorry. She already said everything she needed to, when she went quiet. And I didn't need the company to fire her. They didn't need to. She walked herself out of a version of power that was never built to last. As for me, I returned with something. She could never take my own definition. My own name, signed without hesitation. My own presence, no longer explained, no longer dismissed. I didn't need to shout, didn't need to win. I just needed to stop playing the part they wrote for. Me. They laughed at brunch, I signed the check and walked away unbothered.